Looking at what grade I would give Bill O'Brien after year one at Boston College.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app and create an account and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Got another big episode today. We're going to talk Senior Bowl. Practices are going on. I'm going to tell you what I've seen and heard about Donovan Ezeiruaku and Ozzy Trapilo in their first few practices. We're going to look at finally Boston College landing a 4-star recruit and someone already on campus. And we're going to kick things off by looking at grading Bill O'Brien in his first year in Chestnut Hill. Now, CBS Sports had a graphic up earlier today, up on their Instagram account, which I'm going to share with you right now, that graded the first year head coaches in college football. As you can see, they gave Kirk Cignetti an A+. Obviously, he deserved it after getting Indiana to the playoffs. Fran Brown, 10 wins. I can see that. Really tough on Kalen DeBoer. And Brent Brennan of Arizona, I'm surprised he even has a job. Well, they gave Bill O'Brien a straight B. And that made me wonder, is that something I agree with? A B for Bill O'Brien. And I think that's the right grade because if he won 8 games, if he got to that 8 games, plateau, I would say he would definitely be in the A range given what happened. We've watched Boston College have a culture change in less than a year. I'm not going to get into the whole story again, but Thomas Castellanos, he didn't work out. You have a new quarterback, you have a new system, and in the last month, it was running on all cylinders, and there wasn't much many of these teams BC were playing against could do to stop it. That was impressive. You taught and developed Donovan Ezeiruaku into an All-American, one of the best defensive players in the country. You had every single game mean something, that it wasn't just, with Jeff Hafley, you either had close games against teams you should have beaten badly, or you had games where you were just shellacked. It happened every year. You had games like last year in 2023 against Louisville. You had games against like Clemson. It was always a game here or there, many times a year, actually, I should say, to be clear, where Boston College just was behind the 8 ball. And I think Bill O'Brien did a nice job. He started late. As we've talked about many times, this was, not his transfer portal class. And clearly, some of those guys didn't work out. Guys like Jaden McGowan and Jerron Bradley, they're gone already. The recruits were not his. He came in and had to scramble to put together a staff. Jeff Hafley, when he left, put O'Brien in a spot where he had to scramble to get everything going. And credit to Bill O'Brien, because I think the one thing that I would say is I would probably put him in a B+. I think he's a B+ for this first year because I thought he had a tough situation coming in, where a lot of these other coaches, Fran Brown, he started in December. Bill O'Brien started in almost March. It was late, and so he gets in. He has to start spring ball like immediately after he hires his coaches. He doesn't have time to get on the road. And he's still able to win 7 games. I look at what Bill O'Brien did, and it was a successful season. It was much, in terms of expectations, he rose above it. You just have to look at the Vegas lines where BC was projected to win 4.5 games and they won 7 to say, this was a season that went a lot better than folks had expected it to. And I think looking forward, part of this grade shouldn't just be on the play of this year. It's moving forward. And you look at the way that this team is recruiting right now, and Bill O'Brien has something going on. The class of 2026, all the recruits that he has, every single one of them is getting big time, is getting more and more offers. Mason Leak, the one recruit that many of you were like, "Who is this guy?" has been offered by Wake Forest and Syracuse in the last 2 weeks. Mark Antunes got offered by Syracuse. Uh, Corinne Berry, their quarterback, who had no offers, or he had one offer, I think, at Arkansas, got offered by Purdue, and he had another school too. I think it was Cal that offered in the last 2 weeks. And I've heard there's more other ones that he just isn't announcing. So there's a lot of interest. This recruiting class is going to be much better now that Bill O'Brien has had the time to get things in order. I think the class of 2026 is going to be good. So that's the kind of culture and changes that BC needed. They needed a boost in recruiting. They're going to get that. They needed better play on the field. Bill O'Brien brought that. They needed to be competitive to have an edge to them. For the most part, they have that. So I have to give him a straight B plus, excuse me. There was an expectation when he was hired that Bill O'Brien was the guy. He was going to be the perfect fit for Boston College. And I don't think there's enough data to say a perfect fit at this point, but it's certainly trending that way. He certainly has done enough where the fans are energized. There's a lot of excitement. The attendance was up. All the factors that you'd want are all getting checked off. Like I would ask you, what are things that you look at this roster and the way that this program is being run? What is it about it that is worrying you that Bill O'Brien can control? Because NIL, I think it got a huge uptick when he got hired. I think the things that he can't control that might hinder BC is things like the ACC contract. The payouts. Like he's going to have to battle against schools like Purdue and Indiana and Rutgers that are going to have a higher gross revenue share than they are, and that's going to be harder for them. But that's not his fault. Any coach you brought in is going to do that. So the things that are up against him are things he can't control. There's going to be parts of the game and things that we're going to get challenged by. Obviously, the punting game was a wreck, but they're going to have to figure out how to fix that. And I think there were times where especially with like Castellanos, I didn't think the offense was really great for what he could do, but he's gone, and they're going to bring quarterbacks in now that are going to fit their system a lot better than what he could have done. So I give him a B plus. I think, I would have loved to have seen 8 wins, but remember, this going into that season, you were expecting a tough schedule, and to leave with 7 wins, that's nothing but a success for me. Now, in a moment, I want to get into recruiting because Bill O'Brien also has landed his first 4-star, and it's someone who's already on campus. I'll explain what that means in just a moment. Attending NFL playoff games is an experience like no other. The energy, the excitement, and the connection with other fans are unmatched. I remember the thrill of seeing my favorite team clinch a playoff win live, the Patriots. It's a memory I'll never forget, and I probably won't be seeing one for a while, but hey, maybe Drake May will bring a little magic. But this year, Gametime makes it even easier to create those unforgettable memories with their new feature, Gametime Picks. It filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats so you can focus on what matters, being there. I used Gametime Picks to grab tickets for an upcoming playoff game, and it couldn't have been easier. I found a super deal that gave me incredible value for amazing seats, and I could even preview the view from my spot before buying. The all-in pricing is a game changer, no surprise fees at checkouts, plus knowing my tickets are backed by the Gametime guarantee gave me complete peace of mind. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute, lowest prices guaranteed. Locked on Boston College, AJ Black here. And I want to tell you guys, if you are looking for some Patriots talk, I have been dying to hear more about this Mike Vrabel stuff. Get ready for the NFL draft. You got to check out Locked On Patriots. It's a great podcast that gives you all the daily news going on with the Pats. as a Pats fan myself, it's a can't miss. So check them out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Now, here at Locked On BC, we are here to talk about recruiting. Now, I'm a recruiting guy. That's kind of my bread and butter over at 247. I love football, but I also love to dive in and get into the recruiting. And as you know, I told you guys yesterday that there's going to be a commitment coming up soon. I can't give you details on it. Don't ask me. Certain things I just can't ruin a kid's moment, but there is, and it's not going. You're not going to know about it for about a week. I'm just going to tell you that right now. But the good news is that you know about now is that 247 released their final top 20 247 ratings, which gives you all the all the 5 stars and 4 stars going out of the class of 25 into the class of 26. So they wrap things up, they make adjustments in their ratings, and they announce it. So BC clearly did not have any 5 stars. That's obviously not going to happen. But I think the biggest surprise, I get the spreadsheets ahead of time. I get these embargoed lists. I'm not allowed to talk about them. But before they come out, I'm going to be able to see them. And usually I control F and look for Boston College, and it's blank. And then I cry a little bit, and I hit X and move on with my day. This time when I hit control F in BC, or for Boston, I got a hit. And I looked at it, and who was on that list for 4 stars and 5 stars but Sterling Sanders from Blythewood, South Carolina, excuse me. Sterling Sanders, 6'4" guy, 315 pounds, huge dude, that originally flipped to BC from Georgia Southern and had a huge Carolina Shrine Bowl. He's up to a 4-star now. This was the guy that I saw in my comment section here and on my message board calling him the backup plan for Josiah Victor. I'm going to tell you right now that Sterling Sanders is ranked higher than Josiah Victor. He is very highly regarded by the scouts that saw him play. He had they said right off the bat that this is a guy that could be playing for BC soon. So this is a exciting get for BC. Now, it stinks for BC because they find out about it after National Signing Day. The reason why the ratings come out now is because they are wrapping up all of the postseason, bowls that some of the high school stuff do, some of the camps and things that and live practices and things that our scouts get to see. So Sterling Sanders, he was at that the Carolinas Shrine Bowl. He impressed one of the 247 scouts. He gets the bump. I thought this was cool. This is BC's first 4-star recruit since Dontrell Jones, or Day Jones as he goes by now, in 2023. They did not have one in the class of 2024. That was their first one. It's the first for Bill O'Brien. I think that's the big story too, is now his first class includes a 4-star. He can hang his hat on that. That's a big deal for them. And the fact that the part that I love about this whole story, it's not that it was one of the guys that they recruited that was really highly recruited that had a ton of offers, like Israel Oladapopu, who had a huge offer list. Wasn't him. Shaker Reisig, another one with a good offer list. Samaj Fleming, same thing. Nope. It was the guy that was committed to Georgia Southern. That tells you something, right? And maybe the reason his rating was so low was because he was at a smaller school that was just under the radar. But Bill O'Brien, his staff, were able to find this kid, get him to commit, and now he's going to probably be a force for this defense moving forward. I love this. I think this is great. And I think there's going to, I was wondering too, there was another name, it kind of fits the same mold, that I was wondering if he was going to get any sort of bump as well. And that was a Marion Davis, who's another under the radar recruit from Indian Land, South Carolina as well. He also popped at that Shrine Bowl, but he stayed at an 88. So he didn't get the bump to 90. I was wondering if he would. But when you look at Sterling Sanders, he is the number 37 defensive lineman in the country. Talk about not a backup plan. This is a crown jewel. You got a blue chip here. That's pretty cool. And I think this is going to be the start of something special. You look at what BC has in their class right now. You look, and I've been saying they've all started to get offers. They're all starting to get looks at others by other programs. And I think that Bill O'Brien and his staff have done an excellent job of building relationships with these kids so that they're going to be able to weather some of the storm. A lot of these kids really like Boston College and they're not going to push off of their commitment. You may lose a few, it's going to happen, but I feel pretty strongly that this is a group that's going to stay firm. You look at some of the guys that they have, and you're wondering when they're going to start to see bumps. Corinne Berry, the first off. Corinne Berry, if he's not at the Elite 11 quarterback challenge, like one of the finalists for that, I would be surprised. Like, I think he's going to be special. And I know there's a lot of interest in him from some other programs. BC did a great job. Jonathan DiBiaso and Bill O'Brien have already been out to see him. Or no, Jonathan DiBiaso and Will Lawing were out to see him. And I can tell you now, Dibs is going to be back out there to see him a second time next week. So obviously the staff is feeling good about that one. He's an 86 right now, but he put up video game numbers as a junior. As a senior, if he does that again, watch out. He could be a 4-star quarterback that you have. I look at some of the other guys, and maybe just because they're not going to get a ton of offers, but guys like Marcelino Antunes, who is going to be a big name, and Brady Buchenheis, they're both 87s. Could they get up to that 90 to get a 4-star? They could, but they're Massachusetts recruits. I mean, unless they get a ton of offers and start to blow up, I think they may stay still. But there's other 4-stars that they're in on. As I mentioned, Jordan Thomas is going to be a tough pull, but they're looking at him. There's a few other 4-stars that are out there. Marky Walbridge, he probably will be a 4-star. Who knows what Carter Gooden will be? I think the 4-stars are going to start coming, and I'm excited to see as they continue to build their momentum on the recruiting trail. If this becomes more of a trend for BC, because we were nervous, I think, in that class of 2025 that it didn't seem like Bill O'Brien's recruiting was going in the right direction. It seemed like it was kind of stagnant, but I kept warning you guys. I said, look, he hasn't had a ton of time. It's a brand new staff. They had 6 months to put together this group, or 7 months. Give them some time. 2026 is already starting to bear fruit. I think that's just going to continue that momentum, and I think Bill O'Brien's group is going to really hit it out of the park in terms of recruiting moving forward. I know the staff is really excited, and it's good to see that BC is starting to get some traction with a good coach like Bill O'Brien that's sending a message that's connecting at home. Because I've said this before, I think Bill O'Brien can sell a lot about this school. He can sell everything that Steve Adazio and Jeff Halfley sold, which is you can go to the state of you can go to Boston, which is a great place to network. You can develop for the NFL, all this good academics, all that stuff that we always hear. But his resume is going to resonate with recruits, and it's starting to resonate now. When I talk to the kids, when I do those recruit interviews when they commit, one of the first things they talk about is his success at the NFL level and his staff's success at the NFL level. There's many guys that have had that experience, and that means a lot. So my thing is, I keep talking about 4-stars because you guys want to know more about them, but I think they're going to come more. They're going to start to come more often once the results start to show, and if they have another good year this year, you're going to see that continue to grow. BC will finally start to get some momentum after not having it for so long. In our final segment, I want to talk about 2 BC players that are now gone, but are heading to the NFL and are doing everything in their power to boost their stock before the draft. Welcome back, Locked On Boston College. AJ Black here. Thank you all for listening. And when you're done, check out Locked On ACC with Kenton Gibbs and Alex Dono. It's on YouTube where you get podcasts. You want some good ACC news, they got you all covered there. Now, the Senior Bowl and Shrine Bowl have been going on with their practices, and that's usually what the big deal is. But a lot of BC, there's a big chunk of BC players that are in these different events. At the Shrine Bowl, we've seen Drew Kendall, Jack Conley, and Cam Horsley, and at the Senior Bowl, which is more of the elite bowl, is Donovan Ezeiruaku and Ozzy Trapilo. Now, the kids that are at, or I keep calling them kids, players that are at the Shrine Bowl, you've heard some good things about Jack Conley and Andrew Kendall, which is good. But the big news, the news that is going to push two players into potentially early round draft picks, is that Senior Bowl with Ozzy and Donovan. Both are on a ton of lists. If you go on Twitter and you look them up, I ask you to be careful because if you just look at one clip, you're not getting the full picture. There was one clip, if, for instance, on Donovan Ezeiruaku, where he tried a spin move on some big behemoth from, I think, West Virginia, and he just got swallowed up. Not a good rep. But you have to look at a bunch of reps. That's the way football is, right? And he has more positives than not. And I think that's important. I think that is what we're looking at here, is that when they're looking at how a player performs at these events, you have to look at the greater body of work. And for Ezeiruaku, I saw Marcus Mosher, who I think does Locked On Cowboys. He did a whole string of plays. You can find it on Twitter of every rep that Donovan Ezeiruaku had. And what stood out to me, and I think it's something that we've talked about why he's an intriguing prospect, is he unveiled a whole bunch of his moves. And I think that is what makes him exciting, is that he has a bunch of different ways to beat and to dissect an offensive tackle, and he was showcasing that. Ozzy Trapilo, he looked good too. He looked really good. So we're gonna have Mitch on. Mitch Wolf of Eagle Insider. He's gonna have to tell us, because to me, when I'm watching this, I'm not naive to say that they're both gonna be first rounds. I mean, watching someone like Shamar Stewart of was he from South Carolina or Texas A&M? My God, he's like that. There's a guy that's gonna see his stock rise. This guy's a monster. And then you got like Abdul Carter, who I don't think he's practicing. They're obviously gonna be higher than Donovan, I would imagine. And then Ozzy, he's probably not, a first rounder, but he could be a second rounder. But that's where I see him. I see both of these guys already becoming second round draft picks. That would be great. If one of them could sneak into the first, that would be even better. Be a New Jersey up in the fish house where they put all the first rounders up there. But I love this. And when you're looking at what the scouts are looking at in terms of, what parts of this that they're looking at, it's the practices, it's those reps. They want to see that. They don't, there's a game, and I don't think anyone watches it. A lot of these guys sit it out. I think it was a couple years ago. I think it was Zion Johnson was there, and they didn't even play. So I don't care about the game. It's the practices. What's going on right now that's going to have a major impact on the draft stock of these two. And I think they're both knocking it out of the park right now. I think both are really doing a good job. For them, the next step is going to be the combine. And it looks like to me, if I was a betting man, it's going to be Trapilo and Ezeiruaku being the lone men invited. You could see Drew Kendall might get invited too, but the other ones probably won't. They're going to probably have to wait for their pro day, which is fine too. But it just kind of shows where their stock is at, right? And that's not a knock on them. It's just you can't invite everybody to the combine. So I think that's what we'll see. We'll probably see those two at the NFL combine. We haven't seen the actual invitations yet go out to the BC guys. We've seen some other players around the country get them, but not the group that we're watching for. Now, on tomorrow's show, we're going to wrap up the week. We'll get ready for BC and UMass Lowell. Talk about anything going on in college, the world of college football. You guys know we have so much to talk about here on Locked On BC. 5 days a week. Some folks think we can't do it. How do you do a show 25 minutes a day on BC? I do it, and it's not that hard. I love talking about it with you guys. I find good stuff to talk about. I hope you guys hit me up in the comment section. If you agree with me, disagree with me, what grade would you give Bill O'Brien? Put it in the comment section below. And hit that like and subscribe button before you leave on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. So see you all tomorrow. Follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247 or on Blue Sky or whatever social media. You can find me there. Or come over to Eagle Insider and become a VIP member. Thank you all for stopping by. I hope to see you all again soon for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.